Welcome to the American Academy of Grief Counseling's videogram on LGBTQ diverse grief and loss. This video is going to look at the unique issues and losses that the LGBTQ community deals with on a larger level, a collective level, as well as an individual level. This video also kind of corresponds with GC 760, which deals with minority and LGBTQ types of grief itself. For the most part, when we look at griefs and losses that deal with communities such as the LGBTQ community, it is considered a disenfranchised group. And by disenfranchised, we mean that they are not respected. They have difficulties expressing what they feel in the open. It's not recognized as much by society itself. Now, yes, society has made major steps in the right direction in regards to LGBTQ rights, but there's still a huge gap of where we are and where we need to be in regards to respecting their individuality, as well as respecting the grief and the loss that these types of individuals can experience in their relationships, as well as with their correlation with the state and the church itself. So many of their losses are disenfranchised, and they face stigma, shame, and rejection from family, church, and society itself. So with this inability to grieve in open areas, grief counselors themselves need to be more aware of these particular needs. Now, on a collective front, a collective grief that's shared by all within this community, there are a variety of things that can affect their mind. And while these things happen to some individuals, you could be an individual that lives 1,000 miles away. And if you belong to that particular group, you're going to share in that particular type of loss itself. Just like any religion or race, if they see one discriminated against, then they feel it against themselves. So there is a collective grief that is a reaction to the hate and bias towards the LGBTQ community. And that's involving any type of hate crimes, as well as the numerous club shootings that we have seen in the news itself, unequal marriage laws in some states, or discrimination against certain groups that do not allow equal rights in regards to how one wants to portray themselves, or if they wish to adopt. Some states or local areas might make it more difficult. Although many of that is in the past, there are still challenges within school systems and a variety of programs for individuals who do not identify with the classical male gender or the female gender itself. In addition, there is a collective grief that deals with family renouncement, a lack of representation in itself, a loss of one's religion and faith, and just in general, a lack of empathy, because many individuals just don't care about it because it's something that they don't deal with. So they kind of sweep it under the rug itself. Now, the individual struggles are real for these groups that face this type of disenfranchised grief in itself and loss. There is a loss of identity to many of these individuals because they lose relationships with their family, their friends, and their church, especially family members who might not be as understanding or as forgiving, or may belong to a more traditional path of thinking in regards to faith and morality itself. So, for instance, a gay person might come out to their parents and explain how they feel as they come out of the closet and be totally rejected and lose their parents over it. And this has happened, unfortunately. Now, there are some cases where this doesn't occur, but there are many more that do. And individuals, because of that, have to move forward with their new lack of relationship and their new lifestyle that they are living without the benefit of having family to visit during the holidays or pick up the phone and talk to. And many also are no longer able to attend the same church because the church has various dogmas that are contradictory to their particular lifestyle. And this is a situation where it's unfortunate, but yes, the church has a right to have its own particular moral doctrine, but the particular individual who is expressing a gay lifestyle now has to find a new religious community that is accepting to that type of moral code in itself. Now, another individual struggle that many of the LGBTQ community face is when a partner becomes deceased, and how that is carried out within the community, how that's carried out within the state itself. Especially with laws that don't have gay marriage or civil unions. And these types of situations can occur and make things difficult from a legal aspect. Also at funerals, how are those funerals received? Where is the funeral able to take place? It's probably not going to be able to take place in the traditional church that still is applying conservative moral doctrine. So finding a place to be able to experience empathy and receive condolences and also feel safe and accepted can be very, very difficult. Other individuals who might not only be gay, but also might have various gender ideas within their mind of whether they're male, female, questioning, or so forth. Their very identity and their very choice can be rejected by those within their family, and they have to come to terms with that. And there's already an intense internal struggle as they came to conclusion of what gender best described how they feel within themselves. With that comes a variety of disenfranchised reactions. Shame, maybe an individual who's in the LGBT community feels extreme shame in coming out because of the fact that their family might be more conservative, or they might be actually internally at a struggle within themselves, trying to determine their old values versus their new feelings itself. There can be anger. A lot of individuals in any disenfranchised group will feel anger towards the system, especially in regards to not granting them the particular rights that they deserve or protecting them from various hate crimes. Anxiety can also be a feeling, anxiety of being rejected, and anxiety of not being accepted by anyone, an anxiety of maybe being hunted down by a hate group of some type. And also with all that comes isolation, and isolation from family, isolation from faith, and various other depressions that can occur, and anxiety disorders that can occur when an individual isn't given the proper respect and dignity that they deserve in themselves. So grief counselors can help along with the healing process. It's important, if anyone within the LGBTQ community experience a loss of a partner, or they experience a personal loss to themselves in regards to a relationship with a friend or family member or a particular faith, it's important to help them acknowledge, but also to validate the loss, to let them know that this loss is important and it matters. It's not ignored, as society sometimes might do. And that involves empathy and listening to the loss, and then again, validating and normalizing the loss itself. So an individual who is gay or homosexual comes forward and they have a partner, and that partner is deceased. The fact that an individual says, "My husband has passed away," there should be a normalization within that as that individual speaks of that particular loss, instead of that internal frown like, "Not you mean your wife." So society has its own standards. And as things change in the last couple of years, there seems to be a more normalization of someone having a husband or a woman having a wife. And when they experience that type of loss, they don't have to worry about stigma or explaining why they're gay or not gay, but the loss instead can be focused on. And that comes down to not only society opening up about things, but also laws that respect the relationship and the loss, laws that make it easier for homosexual couples or any type of LGBTQ couple to be able to transition the loss legally as simple as possible. Anything that is financial in nature to be resolved as easy for a heterosexual couple would experience in itself. So, of course, our GC 670 is an excellent course that cover 760, excuse me, is a perfect course to review. GC 760 covers many of the aspects of minority grief as well as LGBTQ grief. So please check out that course, especially our new grief diversity certification program, which that is part of. Other than that, we are the American Academy of Grief Counseling. There's our link for our grief counseling program. There's our grief diversity link. And our email is info@aihcp.org. And our phone number is 330-652-7776. And remember, as grief counselors, grief is diverse, but it's also very unique to an individual. And that any human being experiences grief itself. If you're human, you're going to experience loss. And if you experience loss, you're going to feel grief in itself. As grief counselors, we have to be there for individuals who may have different lifestyles and have different challenges in expressing that grief itself. So that's why this is extremely important. It's something that if you have your own moral opinion on, to really put on hold and to treat the person with love, respect, and the dignity that is demanded by their very human nature itself. So thank you for listening and have a great day.